Hey everybody, want to say something before the episode begins? After we recorded the episode, Della and I were talking. After we looked into our first topic of discussion, we really think that it is a place that should be best kept private. So we went in and masked the name of the cemetery. You'll hear that as you listen to the episode. Just wanted you to be prepared for that and ask that you too treat the location with respect. Now, on with the show. Welcome to the Berea podcast. This is Troy.
And this is Della.
We're all back in the studio again. The band is back together. Isn't that exciting?
That's very exciting. I'm sure everyone missed me.
Yes.
Just
when I talk to people on the street, they say that they love our banter back and forth the best.
Yes, that's what I love the most about us, too, is our banter.
Yes. I call it other things other than banter.
Yeah, some would call it arguing. It's a little tiff. No,
there you
I'm
go.
Just teasing.
No. Got a episode this week that I am so excited about because we have almost been journalists to really research this topic. And here's what happened.
Let me just say, I do not agree that we have been journalists. So I do not agree with it. On this topic particularly, I do not agree. But you can continue.
So I said, hey, Della, I would like to do some research on some interesting things I've heard. Had lunch with a friend.
That you've heard on the Sci-Fi Channel and on the History Channel. And what are some of those others? Okay, go ahead. Was having a lovely lunch with a friend, and they said, have you ever heard about the footprints in Rockcastle County? And I went, what? So footprints of what?
Well, wait. Okay. You'll have to wait a little while to hear that. The crux of that conversation was that these footprints are just weird. So with some time one evening, I searched weird things around Berea, and 3 things came up. And I want to do this episode on these 3 things. And we really did do research. We are journalists of weird Berea.
You're not.
The first thing that came up I want us to talk about is cemetery. The second thing that came up was a reference in the book Weird Kentucky about this thing named Caleb, the equivalent of a Bigfoot. It would be a hominid, tall with green eyes. The third thing are those footprints. So I started down the rabbit hole of all 3 of these things for a few days with everybody I met. After that internet search, I said, have you heard about cemetery? Everybody around here said, I think I know where it is, but there was no secrecy or strangeness in those conversations. So, Della, being the intrepid wife that you are and journalist, I talked you into us going for a field trip, didn't I?
Yes, we did. We drove out to cemetery. So let's just take it off the table. It is not.
It's a family cemetery.
It's just a family cemetery. I mean, it was a lovely spot, but it is not unusual or weird in any kind of way. I'm surprised it even came up in a
restful, respectful place.
Yes.
Is what we saw.
So we took it off. So it is nothing strange about it.
The second thing that I found online was that there's creatures spotted around Berea that are a lot like Bigfoot. And you know what?
Yes, I am doing this episode. Yes. How did I? Yes, I'm like, remember when we interviewed, Mike Hogg about the state of schools? Do you remember when we, but no, today we are talking about
Bigfoot around Berea. So here is an interview that I recorded that will just stand on its own. Okay. Listen and enjoy.
Hello.
Is this Michael?
This is his.
Hey,
this is.
Great. This is Troy. How are you?
I'm awesome, Troy. How are you?
Fine. So, Michael, thanks so much for coming on the show. I wanted to talk about the weird side of Berea. And when I started researching weird phenomena around Berea, one of the things that came up is that there are sightings of, humanoid creatures around here. And when I researched a little bit further, you've actually done some research around here, right?
Right. Right at 4 years now. Well, my research has branched out over the years. Actually, I've been working with a crew out of Australia now for about 2 years on a thylacine project that is. I'm not privy to say a whole lot right now, but it's pretty cool, and it looks like the thylacine will be taken off the extinction list really soon. And those who don't know, the thylacine is the Tasmanian tiger, classified as a cryptid animal by science. It was supposed to go extinct 50, 60, 70 years ago, and since then there's been sightings of this creature pop up in the hundreds over the years. Just science has not got a really hard grasp on it yet to declassify the extinction classification of it. So what's going on in Australia, New Zealand, and Tasmania is there's some really cool information coming out later this year, and I've signed off my part of the research on it. But my main focus as far as research goes, I've been doing this for 18 years this October.
Okay.
And stemming from my first sighting in eastern Kentucky in the Harlan County area, it was a real eye-opening experience. This is what I saw. These things are real. They're out there, and these creatures are out there, and I still hunt. I'm an avid hunter. And very rarely do I ever come across anything Bigfoot related. What led me, I was looking through some old documents, sighting reports that a friend of mine dug up from BFRO database. And these were older documents that were in paper form. They were not digitally on the internet. And I found these.
I'm assuming.
Reports,
let me interject just now. BFRO. What does that stand for?
The Bigfoot Research Organization, run by Matt Moneymaker from Animal Planet's Finding Bigfoot.
Okay.
It's the largest group of researchers out there.
Okay. Already. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure.
No, Troy, you're fine. I am not affiliated with the BFRO anymore. However, my friend that was with me while going through the stuff was, and we found these reports from the Pinnacles area of Berea, and this was in early 2014. So this led my friend and I to go ahead and open up an investigation in this area. I mean, it's 9,000 plus acres of untouched wilderness that, this would be perfect habitat for a creature of that magnitude. So in 2015, November, an investigator out of Georgetown, Kentucky, got a hold of me. And we'd been friends for a while. We'd never been out researching or anything. He asked me if I knew of any research areas that I would care to take him to. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know one right offhand that's not far from us. So we met one day, and we decided to go down to the Pinnacles. So we get down to the Pinnacles, and we hiked that morning all the way up to the top, and we researched all day. We hiked around all day. We found several different odd things, tree breaks and twig snaps that it could have been done by a human, but why is the question? Why would somebody do this?
Okay.
And, why would you go off the trail, 50 yards to just break one little twig? I mean, why would you do that? There's that question. It could happen. It could be human done, but why is the question we wanted to know. So we kind of chalked that up as some kind of Bigfoot evidence. We found several indentions in the ground that could have been done by large footprints. So we had hiked up in the East Pinnacle and stuff, and we'd been up there for a while. We decided to hike down to the Indian Mound Lookout, or Indian Lookout, that you can see everything from right there at that lookout. We got probably 200 feet from the lookout, and we heard a definitive whistle. Was not done by a bird of any kind. and a human, where it came from, there was no way that person could have got down there. It was a sheer drop off a cliff. And so, that whistle was really weird. I mean, it, just a quick, and it was just enough to get our attention. So we walk out on the pinnacle and, or the Indian lookout. We mess around out there for a little while. We make our way back, and on our way back, it's still real daylight out and everything. We get to where the trail forks off in many different ways. And this, we're standing there kind of, not what you'd say, arguing aggressively or anything like that, but we're kind of rapping on which way we need to go. I'm like, if we're going back down, if we're done researching for the day, if we're done hiking, and the easiest way is going to be straight down the bad part is what we call it, and be done with it. Get down to the parking lot in about 30 minutes and we'll be out of here. Or we can go off the east side and take our time. It's an easier walk and everything. One little bad spot in it. So we're standing there, and all out of nowhere, we heard a wood knock. So at the moment, we're the only ones that I know of that were up there. Everybody else kind of made their way off the mountain. And we're standing there kind of discussing, do we go toward that wood knock or whatever? So we start to walk toward the east, and up in front of us, probably about 70 feet, there's something crouched down in the trail.
So an actual sighting.
An actual sighting. And I said, Glenn said, is that a bear? And I said, I don't know if it's a bear or, if that's another hiker. And we started walking toward it, and it stood up on 2 feet. And you could see it was skinny. It was not overly built, muscular, or anything like that. It was skinny, it long hair. It stood up, looked at us just for a split second, and it took off on 2 feet.
What color was the hair?
This was very, very dark brown, maybe would even go with black.
Okay.
So we are standing there in awe. What did we just see? So I turn around and look at him. It's an inside joke in the Bigfoot research community that, we go out looking for Bigfoot. Oh, we saw one, and it's messed us up, because you don't go out hoping or expecting an actual sighting. That's something that just happens rarely. Really and truly, it does. So we're standing there kind of shocked at the moment. I'm like, Glenn, I believe that was one. That was a Bigfoot, and it was probably about 6 foot tall. And I know for some people that's pretty big, but that's actually fairly small for what we have reported. The one that I saw back in October of 2000 was 8 foot tall, 400 pounds. So, it's one of those things where you're like, that was probably a young one. So what do? We're idiots. We walk up to where it was at, and right there next to the trail where it was at, you could see these sticks that were kind of put in a little weird configuration, and what looked to be like what we call a tree structure being made. And these are, we don't know if they are markers for them to know their way around, if they're hunting blinds or what, but they stack trees in a way, lean them together. And that's what this was. You could see where the tree branches had been twisted by something large with a lot of strength, and a human could not do it. So we decided to follow the direction where it went. Now this is where it gets a little bit weirder and then more exciting.
Okay.
So we're walking up, and you could see where this thing had like threw up leaves as it was running away from us. And we get up to where the leaves kind of just stopped right, all of a sudden just stopped right there. The leaves wouldn't rustled up anymore. And I pull out my phone and I'm documenting everything video wise. In my mind, I didn't really think we would get anything on film. So we're standing there talking about it, and I'm filming, and in my field of view, on my camera, I look and I see this same creature we saw in the middle of the trail that ran from us. And I said, Glenn, come here. So he comes over to me, he's standing right beside of me, and we're looking at this creature on my camera. And I said, are you seeing this? And he says, which one are you looking at? And I said, well, what do you mean, which one are we looking at? And he goes, look to its right, which would have been my left. And I pan over, and there's one standing there around 9 foot tall.
And these are, again, on the pinnacles, at the pinnacles here.
These are right there, 200 yards away from the Indian Lookout.
Mm.
So we're standing there looking at these two creatures. They're eyeballing us. The big one, it's got this gnarly look on its face, just like, you know what? You're not welcome here.
Mm.
And Glenn goes, what do we do? And I said, don't run. I said, because I know working with these creatures this long, I don't know, I can never really come up with a verified attack of one, but I know some animals, when you run from them, they will chase you, and there's no way we can outrun these things. So I'm like, don't run. Whatever you do, don't run. I said, let's just kind of back up slowly. I turned the camera off. I put my phone away because I've got my hands up kind of in a way where it would be a threatening position, you know.
Mm.
So I put my camera up and we start backing away slowly, and we're looking at the ground, and we look back up, and they just back up and they disappear into the background, dude. They blended in so well that they just disappeared. I mean, you could hear the big one stomping down the ridge.
Mm.
So we back up and everything. We kind of stood there for a while, collecting our thoughts. So we left. We left everything like it was, and we went off the pinnacles that night.
Well, tell us about what's coming up, though. You're going to reopen some investigations. What's in your mind right now?
I just have returned from California.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks ago, I got back from California, and we went to the Patterson-Gimlin site. That's actually something that's coming up really soon too. We are going back next year, though. That's chalked up for next year. We're going to spend several days at the Patterson-Gimlin site next year. This fall, it looks like the pinnacles are going to be wide open again for us. To actually go in there and thoroughly investigate and try to document these creatures. And, you know, that furthers our immediate knowledge for us, but it also furthers knowledge for science and gives us a better leg to stand on. The Berea pinnacles are a very active area for Bigfoot. I believe that's we've all came to the conclusion that have investigated there that this is kind of like a training ground for younger ones. I think that's what the one we saw that day in the trail and got on film was. It was a younger one. But, you know, we also, I know the last time I heard somebody go in the pinnacles, they said they have bear signs up now that says, you know, bears were seen here and all that. So you have a habitat in that area that would support a large animal like a black bear or a Bigfoot or whatever. So I want to get in there and hopefully get a clear video, hair sample, footprint, something.
That would be awesome.
It would give us a better foundation to stand on and take to the public and say in science and say, hey, these things are here. The Appalachian Mountain Range there's more sightings that's happened in the Appalachian Mountain Range than the Pacific Northwest, even though people automatically want to say, oh, well, you know, Bigfoot, they live out in the Pacific Northwest. Well, no, they live all over the world.
Go ahead and plug the things that you know, if someone's interested in this area, what would you recommend that they look at or go to read or find out more about this?
Okay, so there's this film out called Cultured Bigfoot, and it is a film by Bill Lancaster and his wife, Amy. real close friends of mine, they actually asked me to do the first interview. They filmed the first interview at one of my Bigfoot presentations in Harlan, Kentucky.
Wow.
And it's a film. It's not. It doesn't focus on the Bigfoot or the Sasquatch. It focuses on the Squatcher, the researcher part of it.
Okay.
And it's got the who's who. It has Jeff Meldrum, Dr. Jeff Meldrum from Idaho State, Cliff and Bobo from Animal Planet's Finding Bigfoot, Seth Breedlove, Small Town Monsters, Lauren Coleman, the Cryptozoology Museum. It has Richter Riallo, Ed Brown, Sam the Loach, myself, a whole host, 21 or 22 researchers on this film, and it's in-depth interviews with us.
Where could you find that?
You can find it on Amazon or VD Space right now. And you can also go to Cultured Bigfoot on Facebook, and you can contact Bill directly through there and purchase a copy from him directly that he'll mail to you.
Nice.
He's also working on a new film called Paranormal Bigfoot that focuses on more like the woo aspect of it.
Okay.
Also,
well, let's do this. Everything you mentioned, I'll have in the show notes for this episode over at thebereapodcast.com/weirdberea. And then if any of those pictures that you mentioned, if you could send me any of those, I'll have those on the show notes as well.
Absolutely. It might be later tonight. It might be, I'm not even home yet, but
right, no.
I will do that as soon as I get home, and I'll email them to you. But I'm actually planning to fire back up the Bigfoot presentations, and I'm doing you'll have to go on the Madison County Library site. They do a Know-It-All Festival that I'm actually participating in this year. And I'm doing a presentation at the Madison County Library, Richmond, and at Berea locations, both in the same day.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, forgive me, I can't think of the dates right now.
No, I know it's October 6th. I'm looking forward to it myself.
Awesome. So everybody can come down. I've got like 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to talk all about Bigfoot and Mothman and Thylacine and everything that I currently research. And we'll talk in Berea. We'll talk more about the Pinnacles investigation. I'll focus on it for my presentation. I'm also firing the seminars back up, and that's actually going to be called the Bigfoot Roadshow, where I will be traveling around when I can, scheduled events, and bringing in other researchers from different aspects of the research community and showing off their evidence and my evidence and doing presentations. So we'll be coming to a town near you, and that'll be the Bigfoot Roadshow very soon with Michael Cook and Cook Cryptid Research.
And if people wanted to get in contact with you, they just search for Michael Cook on Facebook, right?
You can search for Michael Cook on Facebook. I am the only Michael Cook in Richmond, Kentucky. You can just find me. It's a picture of me and my little boy. And like I said, I love to hear from everybody. And Troy, I really appreciate you having me on tonight.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for making yourself available and, presenting this seriously.
You're welcome. This is part of my life, not the main part of my life, but this is who I am. This is what I do and who I am.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Troy.
All right. The picture that he had referenced in the interview, it's going to be on the website. So it is simply thebereapodcast.com/weirdberea. And it's there. So we've got the first thing that was weird. We said, that's not weird at all. The second thing, we have someone that says that they have seen Bigfoot at the Pinnacles. The third thing is those Jackson County and Rockcastle County footprints. That's a little bit more than just one eyewitness. And here we go. This is actually documented. I'm going to put some references to some internet sites that talk about it, but I'm actually reading from a real book.
From a real... Are you reading from a real book? How long has that been?
And also, it's not just any book. When I showed Della the first book, she said, "That is so thick."
It is such a big book. It must be true.
It is at least 5 inches thick.
I think it has the word Oxford somewhere on it. So that makes it even more true, right?
True. The title of it is Forbidden Archaeology. And it's a collection of different scientific findings that don't really fit in to our current understanding of evolution. And so on page 455, lo and behold, it talks about Rockcastle County, Kentucky, footprints. I want to give you the quick summary, and then I want to get your opinion because you've read this as well. But this quick summary is for the listener. This is so exciting to talk about. All right, so it says, in essence, that there is a shelf of sandstone that runs from this area of the country all the way up into Pennsylvania. And there are footprints and fossilized things throughout that whole area.
Including Missouri, it says.
Oh, even that far, absolutely.
Even that far. Because it is what part? What is from what era?
Right. Okay. Thank you for asking me, saying this big scientific word. It's Carboniferous. Mm-hmm. And what that means is it's the time when oil was being made. So oil and coal. Okay. We're talking. It's called
the coal age.
Right.
Yeah, it's the coal
400
age,
million years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah. They can document that seam, that line is 400 million years ago. All right. According to our current understanding of evolution, at that point, amphibians with 4 legs were out on the land, okay, at 400 million years ago.
There were not things walking around with 2 legs, except there were lizards that walked on their hind legs, but they would not have had the same kind of footprint that was found in these.
Correct. But not even at this time, it was just the amphibians, the 4-legged amphibians. In the article, they were talking about bipedal motion, which is what you were talking about. Some lizards do, but they pick up their tail and walk with it to have bipedal.
They wouldn't have had a tail that dragged behind them. So at that time, they thought only 4-legged creatures were wandering around, except someone did point out, hey, there were lizards who walked on their hind legs.
Right. Not at this time, but some lizards have,
and they point out that, yes, but they wouldn't have had these kinds of footprints.
Right. What was it, you may ask?
What kinds of footprints were they?
Alrighty, I will be reading. Are you ready? From page 455 says, giving more detail about these prints, Burroughs,
let me pause. I think we should back up. Who wrote about them in 1938?
Dr. Burroughs, Burroughs, a professor at Berea College.
Yes.
He's the one that finded them. And
that's very scientific of you to say finded.
And documented them in 1938. Here's his description. The length of the foot from the heel to the end of the longest toe is 9 1/2 inches, though its length varies slightly in the different tracks. The width across the ball of the foot is 4.1 inches, while the width, including the spread of the toes, is about 6 inches. The foot curves back like a human foot to a human-appearing heel.
And he said that they look like human feet that were not used to wearing shoes.
Right, that the toes are wider, is what it was described at the point. And other people have seen those and seen his summary, who he said looked at the actual footprints, said that it's sandstone. Like I said, sand is a little more compressed in the area of the footprint than the rock around the footprint, suggesting that it was made by compression.
Right, because one theory had been that it had been carved by Native Americans, but when they analyzed it, the way it was, if someone had carved it, the pressure of the sand, meaning the distance between the various granules, would not have been there. That the granules were compressed and close together as if someone had pressured on them versus if you had just carved it out of existing sandstone. Right?
Correct. I'd like to talk about the Jackson County footprints. The Jackson County footprints had less scrutiny of the compression, those kinds of things. So it very well could have been scrapings because there were other footprints, like raccoon, I think was what was mentioned of that site. Mm-hmm. But there was inconclusive. This is researched, and that's what was noticed.
The only thing I noticed is that the two people, though, who analyzed that for Dr. Burroughs were two people he knew from Berea.
Yes.
So
but there you go. Well, why can't we go there today, Della? Do you know the stories?
I do not know what happened.
Okay.
I do, because I said, have we been there? Because I feel like we surely would have been there. I just feel for certain that if there was something that strange nearby, we would have been there long ago.
Right. Here's what the stories say, that you can go to the spot where those footprints were seen, and what you'll see is an area of rocks that have been broken. Mm-hmm. People tried to break the sandstone up into areas to bring around, and it's destroyed. Mm-hmm. So the original footprints cannot be seen. But we've got documentation that something's strange.
And they took photos. They did take photos. And it's been sent around. It looked like different people had looked at it. I mean, they did send the photos, I think, to the Smithsonian, right? And some different people. But the two that talked about the compression of the sand, they knew Dr. Burroughs personally.
So I'm just filing that into, this is something unusual, something interesting around here and connected right to Berea.
And if I'm reading the bibliography, is that what it's called? The thing at the end, the sources, right? It looks like Dr. Burroughs wrote about that in the Berea Alumnus in 1938. I want to go find that. I want to see the Berea Alumnus from 1938 where he talked about finding these tracks. I also feel like that feels like it should have been written in some bigger magazine.
No, that's the struggle, that it doesn't
scientific
fit.
Thing.
It doesn't fit. The website that I'll have some notes on as well is that there was lots of archaeology, both supporting and debunking evolution at that time. It was a hot topic. So Dr. Burroughs' research was among a pile of lots of other research at that time. Mm-hmm. And I'll have links in the show notes as well over at BereaPodcast.com/WeirdBerea. Mm-hmm. There you go. So faithful listener, do you have an interesting, weird story about the unusual around Berea? Let me know over on Facebook. Go to the Berea Podcast on Facebook and message us, or simply comment on this episode to let us know that there's more than this out there. Would love to talk about it. I would.
I don't.
See, this is the witty banter that people love.
Do not send me a message about it. I will not return it.
And I did drag Della to this episode kicking and screaming because I like this kind of stuff. And Della says, "That's nice, dear."
I do not say that.
You don't even say that's nice.
I say, "Are you still talking? Is it done?" Yes, I'll watch about the abominable snowman one more time. What is he really called, though? That's not
the Yeti.
The Yeti. One more time on what channel does that stuff even come on? It's like the History Channel, every channel.
Right.
So we've seen all that.
So there you go. Lots of food for thought on this Weird Berea episode. Talk to you next week.
Bye.
Today is why I stay.